It's giving Serenity.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So it's like melody, serene.
Yes. Serene
Vibes.
melodies. Vibes. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I'm going to ask you, Selin,
Yep.
what is Serene Podcast?
Great
Yes.
question. Serene
Great question.
Podcast. Serene Podcast is a podcast that we are both hosting
Yes.
about young people in general, as we at Serenity Welfare work with young people.
Yeah.
So we have come across a lot of young people together and separately.
Yes.
And we support them, and we've come across a lot of challenges on the way. So we would like to figure out if we can overcome those challenges to help support young people better.
Yeah. That's great.
Thanks.
That was a great explanation.
Thank you.
And in terms of, because you mentioned that you work
I do.
with Serenity.
I do.
What do you do?
Great question.
Yes.
Head of Wellbeing and Dramatherapist. That's who I am at Serenity.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And
I
what
feel like I
did you
knew
do
that.
at
What
Serenity?
did I do? So yeah, obviously I don't currently work at
Yeah.
Serenity, but I did work at Serenity for... how long did I work at Serenity? I should introduce myself, shouldn't I?
You should.
My name's Mark. Yeah, and I have worked with young people for years and years. Worked with young people since, to be fair, since I was a kid, I was working with young people.
Yeah.
In the sense of I used to go with my mum and dad whenever they used to do like different things, because they were both teachers. And so they would host summer schools and I would help out and stuff like that. So I've always worked with young people, and I've always loved working with young people. At Serenity, I was like a music producer, but also a mentor,
Yep.
which was great. It was like probably the only job that I've done that kind of makes sense for what it is that I am in terms of like being someone that loves music, but also loves to help young people. It kind of merged those two worlds. So I did that for about a year and a half, I think. I started in 2021 and ended in 2023. And yeah, it was like a lot of young people coming in, sitting down, talking, making music. There's a lot of memories I have of the young people in particular. I won't say my favorites, but the ones that I remember. And to be fair, all the young people that we worked with were so specific. They were
Very.
so specific. They had a specific set of skills. Like it was not... it wasn't like other work that I've done with young people where it's like everybody kind of has similar backgrounds or circumstances. These young people came from different places, different things that they were struggling with, different things that was happening at home. It was a lot. But I think, it was like, I always call work like that very magical work because it isn't, in my opinion, it isn't something that you can do like almost with your natural mind. Like you've got to really tap into deeper stuff to sit there and do that. So it was amazing. I love young people, so being able to help them that way was great.
Yeah. And they bring a lot of trauma with them, don't they?
Yes.
And it ends up being like a therapy session as well as providing mentoring and then helping them develop a music skill in that sense and showing them different techniques. It becomes also a therapy.
Yeah, and I think that's that's kind of the magic of it. That especially because we don't necessarily always take into account the power and the impact that music has.
Definitely.
And so I think being someone that knows that, it meant a lot to be able to provide an environment where they could express and heal and be safe. My gosh, the stories in my head, everything's just running through my head because the amount of different things and different young people that came with different concerns, you know, and sometimes it wasn't even, the music was almost like a catalyst to get them to think about what was actually going on in their life. But it was amazing. It was great.
I'm sure we'll run through some of those stories later.
Yes. But I would like personally to start
okay.
with how we first got into this in the first place. So I don't know if you remember that.
I don't know if
Okay.
I do.
Well, when so obviously I was applying for jobs at the time. I was getting married in, I think, maybe 2-3 months.
Yeah, I remember that.
I had to move out of studio. My mum was ill. It was like a crazy time. And I was trying to find a job that made sense for what it is that I do.
Yeah.
And there was actually another job that was kind of hounding me, but it was ridiculous the amount of work that job was kind of looking for. They wanted me to work weekends. They wanted me to work weekdays, evenings. It was like,
Yeah.
it was ridiculous. And I mean, we'll talk about at some point the fact that actually a lot of young people or places that hire people to work with young people don't pay a lot, because that job, if you know what they were offering me, it was like, for this amount of work, it's ridiculous. But anyway. And then I was actually at my wife's, she had an exhibition at the time.
Okay.
And I had just passed my driving test that morning. And you called me about an interview. And I don't know, I was very like, I was just kind of fueled with fire because I passed my driving test first time. I learned to drive in a month. Literally from September to October, I learned to drive. Passed my driving test first time. And I just moved house to where me and my wife are going to live, and needed a job. But more than that, I was very fired up because I passed my driving test. And you called me, and I just remember being like, because I think you asked me, like, are you determined or willing to something? And I remember saying to you, look, I just passed my driving test today. I've been learning to drive for 4 weeks. I can do anything. Like, I just remember being so fired up.
Yeah.
And yeah, it led us to obviously having the interview.
Yeah.
And then me actually, I remember I was chasing you to know the verdict because I had to tell the other job that I wasn't going to take the job.
Yeah.
That was a crazy time. But I appreciate you for having me. I appreciate that you.
I appreciate you for
I
coming
appreciate
along.
that you had,
Appreciate you for joining us and coming along for the
No, I
ride.
think it was like it was very helpful at the time because I was very much just trying to figure out what it is that I could do.
Yeah.
Like, and it was the synergy was very clear. Like, young people, music, I'm producing, but I'm mentoring. Boom, perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That was a great start to something so magical.
Yes.
And as we're talking, like you said, I've got all these memories of all the young people that came through those doors in the music studio. And there were some sessions we done joint as well together, and they were great. And we're definitely going to have some young people on the podcast that will share their experiences of the music studio and what we done there as well.
Yeah, no, that would be good.
Yeah, that will be definitely great, because it's important to give young people their voice as well, and for them to share their experience and their process and how they may have transformed as well.
Yeah.
Because we've witnessed that, and we've been very lucky to witness some young people that have transformed.
Yeah, very much so. I wanted to ask you, at that time when we were just starting, was there any, and this is a quite interesting question, was there any reservations about, one, me starting and what we were going to do? Was there any like, oh, is this going to work? Or
No?
None? Oh, okay.
None whatsoever.
Be
But none whatsoever. I created the program, and then I knew what I wanted in terms of who I wanted to lead it, what type of person that they needed to be. And they really needed to understand young people and what comes with young people and their trauma. That was really important for me, because the people that will come into the studio are in care or edge of care, and they're involved with a lot of different professionals that actually decide important decisions in their lives, and they don't have that ability to decide those decisions. So they come with a lot, and for someone to be so compassionate when they're offering a service, it was very important. And I just felt like I hit the nail on the head when I found you to lead that, which was great. So everything kind of just aligned.
Okay.
And yeah, and then it was just something magical, and it's continuing now, which is great that we can still offer that space. And alongside you leading that, I was training to be a dramatherapist.
Yes.
which was a transformative journey for myself. And doing my placements at the youth offending, and then like telling you about my experiences with drama therapy and creating a different type of creative safe space for young people doing therapy, which was a little bit more deeper than the music studio, but it was great to share my experiences with you as well along that journey. And then having my final performance and you helping me with that
Yes.
And just making sure that I could put myself in my client's shoes to say and share with others that I've been through trauma myself, to be able to share that and be vulnerable. Then it makes other people connect to me. So there is going to be some vulnerability of us sharing on Serene Pod as well, so people can actually understand where we're coming from and relate to us. And we're also human, so
very much so.
Very important for us share our journeys.
I think that's important because even on that, us being human, I think one thing that was always really hard for me, especially work with the young people in the studio, was hearing what they were going through the music. And it was tough. Some days were heavy. I don't know how much we can say. I probably won't. Can I tell stories but not say names?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, because I got stories. My gosh. I remember the first thing I did, actually, when we came here, is I went with a fantastic young mentor that was, I don't know if he's still here, but he was here.
He is.
Oh, fantastic. That's my guy. So we went to see somebody at a home, and like I had been to homes before in different kind of work or different things that I was doing. And this experience was interesting because this young person actually seemed to have disconnected. They didn't really care about what they were doing. And in that one conversation, we connected so much. And it's so crazy because now, like, that young person, like, still hits me up about everything, you know? And I think that's so amazing, but it's like, I remember that conversation being like, wow, like, this is what he's experiencing, but not only that, look how much joy comes when he talks about music. And it was a good reminder that, like, music's powerful. Like, it's a big deal. And yeah, like, I'm trying not to just reel off stories because, like, my head is spinning. But also that young person then ended up being sectioned and going to see him with, again, my fantastic mentor friend. And that being really heartbreaking. That day, I think, out of all the days working, that was the hardest day. That day was horrible.
I will never forget that day because I met you guys after. And I was joining many, many professional meetings, advocating for him to come out of there. And I was receiving pictures from the parents on how bad it was, on how he was being treated, and also how bad the room condition was for him. I wouldn't even put an animal in there, let alone a human. So it was a very tough period for all of us involved in the care of that young person. Because I remember saying to you, I wish we could just get the car and like drive through this hospital and get him out of there. We didn't do that. No. But I wish that I had the powers just to take him out. And that same young person is going to come hopefully on Serene Pod and share his experience, and I'm sure he will share this story. But it was definitely hard hitting and very heavy to go through that process with him. You did do music with him in there though, didn't you?
While he was in there?
Yeah.
No.
There was no
way.
Yeah.
There was no way.
I know that was discussed, but I don't know if it was done.
It was kind of impossible because of the way the space was. I think I took my laptop and but it was just a difficult place to do something like that.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Yeah. It was very frustrating that the only thing that he had as a coping mechanism was music.
Yeah,
and that was taken away from him in that setting. And I just couldn't get my head around if that's his only coping mechanism and how he can express what he's going through mentally.
Yeah.
Give it to him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not understanding the logic around all of those decisions that was made for him from professionals, and I was advocating for him at every meeting.
Yeah.
But we were, as a service, only providing him with the music studio, so I didn't have any power really.
Yeah.
I was just trying to share his voice in those meetings, which is definitely the most difficult part of this job.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that wasn't easy, but but then obviously there was a lot of highlights with him in particular. Lots of highlights, lots of just him creating ridiculous music, him coming out with ridiculous stuff. I still remember him because obviously he was a producer. That was the main thing. Then he started rapping, which was a bit of a shock, and then all of a sudden he was singing, which was an absolute shock. So yeah, man, I think, the talent is clear, and sometimes it's important for us to be able to provide spaces for that talent to be heard and nurtured, because oftentimes it's that talent that's gonna, be the way that someone's gonna, they may not be famous rappers one day, but it might be the way that they're going to survive their journey to adulthood. You know, sometimes you just need that thing that holds you until you decide, okay, I want to do this with my life. Or, but in terms of highlights, there was more highlights with others.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would like to know, what was your highlight? Who, or not who, but was there any moments were there any moments that were like a low, other than the one we just spoke about, a low period or worrying period or concerning period? And then was there any moments that were really high and like, oh my gosh, this is amazing?
Relating to the music studio or just in general?
I mean, just in general, people, to be fair. But it would be good if any of them are music studio related.
Just so you would know them.
Yeah.
I have a few in mind.
Okay.
I have definitely been through, I would say, about 3 that were very challenging when it came to professionals.
Okay.
Not challenging young person, just challenging when it came to the professional meetings.
Yeah.
And these 3 boys did individual drama therapy with me at the youth offending team, and it just felt like firefighting, like constantly trying to advocate for that young person's voice, advocating for mental well-being and what may be best for that young person.
Got you.
Can be very draining part of the job.
But yeah.
Very draining part of the job. But they all continued with drama therapy. One of them had 65 sessions with me, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Of sessions. My longest client, which I finished with actually last week.
Wow.
So, okay. And then the others, I think.
Was that like emotional to be?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Emotional on both sides.
Of course, 65.
And it's very difficult as a therapist because we're kind of trained not to show emotion in a way. Obviously, we show compassion, but I voiced that I was feeling emotional. Yeah. And I voiced that endings are hard.
Yeah.
And for us to voice that as therapists, I think is important because it's a reminder that therapists are also human and we do feel emotion. And we're not frozen. Yeah. So, endings are difficult when it comes to ending with young people generally. Yeah. Even in the music studio, that particular one that we spoke about, ending with him was very difficult too. Very hard, Very, very hard. And he stays in touch. And I only finished with him last week, but I will stay in touch with him just as a check-in and see how he's doing. And just to see someone's transformation and witness that, I feel so honoured that I've got that that I'm able to do that and I'm in a position to do that, I feel very honoured.
Yeah.
And it makes me very proud of my job. And even though there is that bigger part that I'm like firefighting and advocating all the time, that can be draining, it doesn't weigh out the fact that I'm witnessing young people's growth and transformation.
Got you. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So that was low?
That was a high.
That was a high?
Yeah.
I mean, but the leaving.
The leaving was a low.
But
the leaving is a low.
Was a high overall.
But a high of a transformation of a young person is definitely a high.
Got you. So has there been a low, like a... You know?
A low, I would say, when a young person is not ready. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's tough.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of one that came here for Dramatherapy and the music studio.
Okay.
And she started, I think she had 6 sessions of therapy, but very inconsistent, very chaotic lifestyle outside of here.
Yeah.
And she was experiencing a lot of trauma while she was in therapy.
Got you.
And come into the music studio. So it was very difficult to contain her and get her to do any therapeutic work, to get into any traumatic things when the trauma was still continuing.
Got you.
So maybe that's a lesson for me as well as a professional. If I feel that someone isn't ready to voice that, maybe we can review this. But then at the same time, it's a very difficult decision to make, because if it's chaos outside and the only safe space is in the therapy, then how can I end the therapy?
Yeah, that's tough.
It's a very tough one.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. So I kind of just saw it out till she said, actually, I don't want to do it anymore.
Got you.
And then I said, that's great. If you do want to do it again, I will provide the space for you.
Got you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a low for me.
Got you.
Yeah.
Man.
That's a low. Yeah, it's a lot.
That is difficult.
Yeah, that is difficult for the job. But then I guess in every job there's a high and a low in every job.
I think so. I'm trying to think of if there's any highs and lows. In particular, oh man, I had a lot of highs. There was 2 young boys that came. These guys were like my constant high. There was 2 young boys that came. Very tall. The first time I saw them, it's quite interesting because they like, I'm quite tall. I'm about 6'3". These boys were both like 6'5". They came in. Just the way they were was so reminiscent of how I've grown up and the young boys that I've been around, or the boys that I'd been around growing up. And so I almost saw them like my kids, like I saw myself kind of in the way they were immediately. And obviously one of them had come and he was actually on crutches the day that he came because he had got into an altercation. And like the conversations, the music made, obviously they used to come in, I'll be honest, a bit intoxicated.
Yep.
Because they were doing whatever beforehand. And I watched those 2 boys progress. Oh, man. It was unreal. Like, the music was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
The language and lyrics was insane. Insane. And a lot of people would come, people would knock on the door and be like, oh yeah, I remember there was one lady, and this was actually a really beautiful conversation that I had with her. I can't remember her name, but she used to work next to the studio, and she came in and she was like, he's really good, but he's saying some crazy stuff. And I was like, yeah, but like, this is, if I get him to say it here, at least I can stop him from doing it elsewhere.
Definitely.
And I create the environment where I can help to fine tune not only the language, but the actual behavior. She was like, oh, that's great. Yeah. Oh, no, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I'll make sure if I see him, I'm going to talk to him and da-da-da. And I think that stuff is so amazing because we got to watch these 2 boys. Like, oh man, like they stopped getting intoxicated when they came here.
Yeah.
I'll probably say one of the, this was concerning. There was a very concerning day that one of them actually had a weapon on them when they came. No one knew.
Oh, yeah, I remember that day.
Oh, my, like, sometimes I think back to that, like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah,
like,
I remember that.
That's insane. But it was almost like when you're doing a job with at-risk or vulnerable young people, you have to be prepared for whatever that could look like.
That's the reality.
There is nothing that would make us assume that this person would have a weapon on them. Yeah. They jumped into the car, they came with us, we drove them here. There was no funny business or any interaction with ops or anyone else. Yeah. But obviously, then we spoke to him and told him basically we got to take him home. We have to take it and take him home. Like, we can't, you know. And he literally was like, look, I'm scared. Like, this is like, I've just been, you know, assaulted. I've just been harmed. How am I going to protect myself? Like, you guys don't understand that that's what my reality looks like. And that was really tough. But again, providing the environment, creating music for them in particular, like how their lyrics would start changing, and they were like, okay, yeah, maybe they can talk about this. And then obviously that person in particular ended up making this song that was like a movie, you know, where he's talking about something that happened in a relationship. And it was so good to see them that vulnerable. And then the other one in particular, because these guys were like yin and yang, but then when we started separating them in sessions, they became like more open. So I'll never forget this. The other one had come and we sat down and I was trying to get him to write and stuff, and he just didn't seem like engaged. And he opened up to me. I'll never forget this. He sat there and he was like, what do you think about children? Like, so I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know. And he said, bro, I think I might have got someone pregnant.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, what? I'll never forget this conversation. He was like, I don't know what it is. I feel like maybe God's like trying to get me to fix up because now I feel like I have a reason. Like,
wow.
And I don't know if, I don't think there was a kid that happened or whatever, but there was a glimpse of like, maybe I need to change my life. And it was so honoring to me that he had that conversation with me because he just felt comfortable enough
safe
enough to have that conversation. That was a highlight. That was like magic. That was something else. I remember that conversation and basically being like, yeah, come on, man. If you need to fix up, you need to fix up, you know? Yeah. And then, I guess a low part was, them leaving, you know, one of them ended up disappearing literally. Yeah. Just one day he flew out and that was it. Yeah. That was tough. Yeah. And then I think all the goodbyes were tough.
Yeah, you're really digging into my memory box here because I forgot about those two.
Really?
Yeah, and now you brought it up. I was like, wow. And actually credit to us with those two boys because even though they'll come in intoxicated and then there was the knife that was bought for the session. Yeah. And I remember you calling me like, oh my God.
I didn't know what to do.
Like, what are we doing? And we stayed as a team and also the mentors that were involved in the music studio as well. We're a tight-knit team and supported each other through everything that was maybe came up as unexpected, but also didn't give up on these young people because there is other organisations that if young people do come intoxicated or they've got a weapon, then they wouldn't see them anymore. Yep. And we just don't give up, and that's just within our ethos that we don't give up on young people, and it's about teaching them another way. And like you said, when we decided to separate them, they stopped coming intoxicated, and because they provided the safe space that they needed, really. We did that, and I'm proud of us for doing that and staying as a close team. Plus with the mentors that were involved in that as well.
It was really good, especially to be able to have, I think that was, and this is we're being what's the word, open and honest and transparent here. I think that was the hardest part about kind of the ending of my time here. I was often just by myself. And it's very different when you're in the music studio with the young person's care worker.
Yeah.
Because not all care workers are the same. Not all care workers care.
No.
So there was there was a young guy and there was a woman. Oh, so funny because because the woman had given me a note with her email.
Oh,
Because
okay.
she was like, oh, any other young people, I'm going to bring them to you. Like, this is so great. Because she was no longer working with a young person. And this woman was like maybe in her 50s. And she was fantastic. She was engaged. Like, obviously he was rapping. He was rapping like crazy lyrics. She would be engaged. Oh, yeah. Oh, good, yeah. Maybe, she'd give a word. Like, it was unreal. So obviously, yeah, like I said, when you have a session with a young person and a care worker that's like that, it's amazing. Then you have a session with a young person and a care worker that doesn't want to be there and feels like this is a burden on them. So then, and the issue with that is oftentimes, these young people might be new. So you don't even know what this young person needs.
Yeah.
And there was a magic, I think, when we had the mentors as well as myself in the room because then now we're working together to make it work.
Right.
But then when you try to do that with a care worker that doesn't care, in their head they're like, I had care workers kind of look at me like, what? And go back on their phone like,
Oh, okay.
what are you talking about?
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I think that made the balance quite hard. And there was something very special about the team, the having yourself there. I don't know how many names I can even remember, but having the team there in the room and just working. And the young people loved it.
They did. And I guess we all know how we all work.
Yeah.
So that helps as well.
Exactly.
So we know what everyone can bring to a session and then we kind of bounce off each other. And then the young person picks up on energy. And I always say that in every environment because I've had a lot of professionals since I've been a drama therapist ask me like, how do they even engage what they're doing therapy with you? I can't believe that. Like, how comes they're doing therapy with you and not with... They pick up on energy.
Yeah.
And I always say that I'm genuinely here to help you.
Yeah,
and they just pick that up. And I found that when we were in the studio as well, they will pick up on our energy. They know genuinely we're here to help them and there's no other motive here.
Yeah.
And that client that I was talking about in therapy that had like 63 sessions, he was saying about there is professionals that are there for the money and he knows that.
Yeah, of course.
And there's professionals that are genuinely there to care and help and support, and he knows that. Yeah. So that's why he picks and chooses who he engages with, which is totally fair.
Yeah.
And what do I say to that? I agree. That is genuinely, unfortunately, what it is in these industries.
But I think it's hard because I think, I'll ask you this question. Do you think that some people come into this space wanting to help and then because of whatever it is, lack of support, low pay, not a lot of because let's be real, see, obviously I have a son now.
You do.
My son is almost 2 years old and caring for somebody that is vulnerable, whatever, it's a lot of thankless work and there isn't necessarily an amount, like in my opinion, oh gosh, if I even go into that, in my opinion, like obviously I've done a lot of influencer stuff, right? I know what they pay people to post videos.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
It's, you can be paid 6-7K to post a video.
Oh, wow.
Look, I don't even want to say too much. I will, but there was a point where Robinsons paid me and my wife $4,000 to gargle.
No way.
On camera, yes. So to think that that's what they're paying just anyone on camera, but people who literally are working as in pouring their life out, energy out. I remember there was a mentor here that I was speaking to and whenever we would go and pick up young people, he would vent to me in the car and he'll tell me the stories of young people fighting him. He'll be driving, they'll be kicking the and I'm like, it's not about money, but wow, like imagine that's your job. It's a lot of work. And so to be kind of not necessarily, barely making ends meet is so tough. And so, yeah, my question, I know I went on a tangent, but my question is, do you feel like some people do come into it with the mindset to help and, thinking it's going to work and then just get kind of put off and, kind of their morale destroyed by the way some of the system works?
Definitely.
Got you.
I agree. I do think that happens. But what I do say is what's really important in when you're doing any type of job like this is you are dealing with trauma, right? If you haven't dealt with your own trauma, then you're going in and you're dealing with other trauma. It brings things to surface and then you start projecting and you don't realize that you're projecting.
Got you.
So you start projecting your own stuff onto other people. Then you start resenting the job. And then you don't know why you're resenting the job. And then you kind of think, oh, this job isn't for me anymore. But if someone goes into a job like this that is dealing with young people that have trauma and has dealt with their trauma or is dealing with their trauma, then you can start to identify, right, I'm feeling something. Is that mine or is that theirs? And I've just kind of picked that up when I've met with them and had a session with them just
Got
now.
you.
So there's something called countertransference. So we experience that. So if we're having a session and a young person has just cried their eyes out and told you loads of stuff, then you start crying your eyes out. Are you crying your eyes out because you feel sorry for the young person and what they've shared? Or are you crying your eyes out because something else is coming up for you? Yeah. So if you're not doing the work for yourself, then you're not going to identify these things. That's the first point. The second point is it is very draining. And I don't say that lightly. It can be very draining.
Yeah.
Self-care.
Yeah.
Very important in any job like this is self-care. In a school, in a PRU, anywhere. Local authority, youth justice. Self-care is really important to look after yourself while you're working in these type of settings. And the other thing is when you do feel like, oh, I'm starting to resent this job, that's your time to leave. Don't stay.
Yeah.
Because then your energy is picked up, like I said, by the young people, and then they will disengage with you, and then you may not like the type of words that they will use towards you, and then it just continues and continues.
Yeah.
So they're the 3 points I would make towards that question, because it is a very difficult job. I'm not saying that it's easy. It's not easy. But you have to kind of make sure that you know what you're getting into before you even apply.
Yeah, of course. I think, the self-care point is very important because I think that's the one thing I wasn't doing. And, so it was, oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I think it was draining. And then, obviously, I don't know if you remember, for me, the last few months, it wasn't only just that the job was draining, life was draining. So obviously we lost my mother-in-law.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was like the worst.
Yeah, I
like just
that.
the worst time.
Yeah.
And we found out we were pregnant. So my pregnant wife is grieving.
Yeah,
and that's
tough.
So I remember just that period of time being so draining, like ridiculously draining. And then at the same time, I was kind of balancing everything else that was happening online and trying to figure out how I'm even going to do this and do that. So, but self-care went out the window at that point. I was just like, I can't, I don't, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot to juggle.
So I do think, I do feel for, because I mean, we've had it here with mentors that are here. I do feel for those that are carrying a lot outside of here and then also pouring out here, because that's it's tough. Like, you know, most jobs you're not dealing with this level of trauma on a daily, like, you know. So I honestly, I commend you, because to still be like pushing through, and because I ask myself sometimes, like, could I still do it in the same way? I don't know if I could. It was a lot. Like, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot. It's and I think you have to have the right mind to do it, and do it consistently. Yeah. You know? Because you can do it. You can do it for a week. You can do it for a month. But to keep doing it. Yeah. Man,
as a career.
Yeah. You've got to be mentally, like, strong, and emotionally you need to be quite whole.
Definitely. And also boundaries, because what I've noticed is that there was someone else that was like a mental health practitioner that was working alongside some of my young people that I was doing therapy with. And I noticed the different type of relationship that she created with the same young people that I was doing therapy with was different because boundaries have been blurred. So, for example, if I say, this is the time of your appointment, some young people don't know what the time is, so they come whenever, which is fine. If I'm available, I'm going to see you. But the time that the session ends is always 50 minutes and it ends. Like, it doesn't run over, and I'm strict with that. And then after 5:30, my work mobile goes off. And then at 9 o'clock, it'll go back on Monday to Friday. But then I've seen some, as I mentioned, like a mental health nurse was dropping them home in her personal car or calling at any time or visiting at home. And like that's when it blurs the boundaries. Then the relationship changes. And then you can become even more drained.
It's
and
dangerous.
then lines just become very blurred. And especially when you're dealing with young people that may be a male young person and you're a female, you have to be very careful. And how you build that relationship is up to you, really. It's up to you. And boundaries is very important. I think with any young person that we're working with, boundaries is also very important. And to be honest, they respect that because usually they haven't grown up with boundaries. So they need to be learned that, and we can teach that by providing the boundaries for them. And then they will understand what boundaries are in future relationships for themselves.
Got you. No, that makes sense. So, question, in terms of this whole, because again, I've kind of been out of the kind of social care, the social work space. Obviously, I still work with young people. Funny enough, I will see one of the young people we're talking about this Saturday.
Oh,
yeah, because I'm putting on an event with like creators, producers, and he's very keen on coming. He wants to help out and stuff, so that's fine. Come down. So yeah, I'm still in the space in some sense, but for you, how do you feel like the space has changed over the last few years? Like since obviously, because in coming into this, I am interested in how it's developed, you know.
I don't know if it's developed or if it's gone backwards, to be honest.
Ooh, okay.
Not to put you off like, should I get back into it? But I feel like it's gone a little bit backwards, not developed in a sense. I think it's great that people are talking more.
Yeah.
So I've seen like social care podcasts and teacher podcasts. That's great. Sharing experiences is great. And like that opens up collaboration work. And recently I put a message on my LinkedIn and a little post saying about how important it is to collab nowadays to provide the best support for young people.
Yeah.
But I know working at the youth justice, the youth violence has gone up.
Okay.
And it just feels like, why has it gone up? Can we take ownership and what can we provide? So I just feel like within the services, it's gone a little bit backwards. That's my experience personally. I don't know, others, maybe different. Yeah. But for me, I just feel like it's gone backwards just because I am still advocating and maybe advocating more than I did before in meetings with professionals. Yeah. Funding's being cut and everyone's talking about funding and things like that. But that's where I'm saying about collaboration work is really important now. I'm really happy that there's things like Adolescence that's out and those type of things.
We should talk about that.
We are going to talk about that.
Okay.
But those type of things spread awareness. And I'm really happy that those things are in the limelight. And I think it's really important. And like, Idris Elba coming forward and doing his petition and all of that. This is great. You need a bit more of that. We need more of that. And that's what like my next steps are now is to like push for collaboration. Let's do this together. Let's make a change together.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So Adolescence. Can we talk about Adolescence? Okay.
Have you seen it, right?
I've seen it.
Okay.
I've watched the whole thing.
Ooh, where do we start with that? Wow.
I mean, firstly, great job, Stephen Graham.
Great job.
Ashley Waters.
Great job.
I can't remember who else is in it. The young boy.
Yeah, great job.
Great job.
The young boy who hasn't acted before, by the way.
Ridiculous.
Crazy.
That is a shock. So I think they did a really good job.
Yeah.
I think just from a just from like a visual production perspective, it's great. You know, the whole one shot thing, and
Love it.
You know, it was really cool. The story. How did you feel about the story?
Unexpected.
Got you. Okay.
Unexpected, because I was watching it. I didn't really listen to anyone's feedback before. I just went into it not knowing anything, watched it, and I was like, oh, what angle are we going with here? What's happening in this storyline? And then all the things around like incel came up, and I was like, oh, that was unexpected. I wasn't really expecting it to go down that angle.
Yeah.
And then the ending, it's like I wanted more, like I wanted to know more about like getting into the court case and sentencing. Maybe because I work in the youth justice, so that's what I deal with. But I'm really happy that they touched on those incel stuff. And then they also, the victim who was murdered was a girl, and I'm happy that they did that, because then it shows another light on it's not always males that it happens to and things like that. And it's opened up so many conversations. I had a really interesting conversation with my family on the weekend about it, and you just hear everyone's different opinions about it. And then they're saying, like, someone was saying incel thing is like completely separate to knife crime, and I was like, it's not. And then they're like, yeah, it is. So my opinion is that I love the storyline. I love the visuals. Like, as a creative being myself, I absolutely love how they done it in one shot. And every actor that's in it is great. I really zoned into like that psychological kind of aspect of it. And I think it was the third episode where he was in that really intense psychological assessment, and probably because I had my therapy hat on, I was like watching it, and it was really interesting because there was a part of me that was like, oh, I wouldn't do this as a therapist. I would do this as a therapist. But she wasn't a therapist, she was a psychologist, and she was doing assessments, so they're trained differently. But I've had young people similar in a therapy session with me that ask, like, pushes boundaries. So that's what he was doing in that third episode, pushing boundaries constantly and trying to have control and then pushing it back. And it was all of that, like, back and forth. And I've had that in sessions before where it's really difficult to navigate it, but you've got 50 minutes and you have to sit through this 50 minutes. You have to try and navigate it. So I think the psychologist managed it well. I probably maybe wouldn't have moved my chair as a therapist to sit next to the young person because personally I think personal space and boundaries, I wouldn't have done that. But maybe psychologists are trained differently to therapists. But overall, I think it's great that they touched on incel because there isn't anything else that touches on incel.
No, I don't think there has been.
No, I don't remember anything. Knife crime, yes. But overall, I think it was a 10-10 from me.
Okay.
I would give it a 10-10.
Okay. I have a controversial take on this.
Oh, let's hear it. Okay.
I think it... No, I'm joking. I think it was good. I think it's great, man. I think that we are in a time where the internet has created an environment for people to be so heavily influenced by lies and fakery.
Definitely.
And people creating personas and creating almost like ideologies for others to follow. And it's actually quite horrible. It's sad. But the impact is prevalent and clear. Yeah. So I do worry for young people because, you know, people like Andrew Tate and, you know, that are significant in their misogyny, in their, like, just their disrespect for whether it's women, whether it's, like, just what manhood should be or, you know. It's scary because if you are vulnerable and if you are young, you might hear that and think that that is true. Yeah. You don't realize that this guy's just cosplaying what a man should look like, you know? And so, it's quite, I think it hit the nail on the head. I love Ashley Waters for several reasons. For number one, the fact that I knew him as Asher D, and Asher D was crazy and got in a lot of trouble and, you know, got arrested for this and that and now has really made something of his life. And I think that's amazing to see, number one. Number two, he said something recently, and it seems to be a theme in what he does. he doesn't pander to what isn't true to make a good story.
Right. Yeah.
So with like Adolescence, he was like, they didn't want the dad to be abusive or, they didn't want extra things to make it so that people could justify the behavior.
Yes.
They also didn't want it to be like, oh, this thing has happened. Like, because, usually, because for me, up to episode 3, I'm like, this boy didn't do it. There's no way. He didn't do it. He's crying. He said he didn't do it.
That is so interesting.
The friends are running around in the school.
Oh, wow.
Acting like there's something else going on. So I think there's a boy that Ashley Waters chased in the thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, it must have been him in the clothes. That's why. So I'm like, until I saw him with the therapist.
Right.
I'm like, oh, he did it. He definitely did it. What's wrong with him? We got crazy. But I'm like, why would I believe he did? Because I'm so used to these shows being a story of, he's framed. And then that's like the cool part of the story. But then I realized, oh, this ain't like some cool story. This is just the reality that this guy killed a girl and then said he didn't do it and has been arrested and has gone down for it because he did it. And so that was a bit like, oh yeah. Because in real life isn't TV. There's no spectacle. There's no, oh, maybe, and then someone really comes out as the person that did it and say, it was me. Oh. That's not real life. People do this and they think they're going to get away with it. And, hopefully they get caught and they go down for it because they did that, And so that was interesting, but I think it was amazing for me to remember that, wow, this is real life, And so that's one thing that he does that I think is amazing. He also said it with Top Boy because obviously you can easily sit there and say, Top Boy is glorifying this lifestyle and that lifestyle. But he said that because people always asked, why did you let Sully and Deshane die at the end? Like, why would you make them die instead of like allowing it to, we could have another season and another season? And he said, because the reality of that lifestyle doesn't end in lots of seasons. Like, you either end up in jail or dead. And if both of these people, he was like, there's no way I'm going to let young people watch this guy be a drug dealer, get a house, get a car, money, never been arrested, never gone to jail, and just continue living, because it would be a disservice to the truth.
Definitely.
That's just not the truth.
Definitely.
I don't know any guys that have been in that lifestyle and are 50 and making so much money that haven't seen jail or haven't had to significantly turn their life around, cut off people, it be complete trauma to do so. And, that's not how this happens. It's usually they end up in jail or in the grave. So I really respect that he does that in telling these stories.
I agree.
But yeah, Adolescence was amazing. I think everybody should see it. I think I personally think, especially as a parent, if you have children, you need to watch it.
100% I agree. There's a periodic table that's come out. I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
Of emojis.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it shows you like what the emoji means.
You are joking.
Yeah, in texts. And I was saying to my sister-in-law on the weekend, like, have you checked your son's phone? Because he's 14.
Crazy.
And then she was like, yeah, I check it. And I was like, but you may be seeing an emoji and you don't know what the emoji means. And you just think it's just chill, like they're just sending emojis to each other. So I sent her the periodic table and, spoke about Adolescence with her. And it's interesting because can
you send it to me after this?
I will send it to you.
Thank you.
I will send it to you.
I mean, my son's 2. But
He's
still,
not messaging anyone
it's just
yet.
the fact that exists.
Yeah.
I'm gobsmacked.
Yeah. So it's real. It's real. And I think it's important for every parent to be sent it and know it. It is on Insta, it is on TikTok. You'll be able to find the periodic table with all the emojis. It's very sad that this is where we're living and this is the reality of young people and it's like they're constantly in survival. But it also opened up in a conversation of cyberbullying as well.
Yeah, of course.
And the reality of cyberbullying and also the effects of it, and how I do believe that it can relate to knife crime, and it can. Yeah, of course. That's just, unfortunately, that's the reality that we're living in.
Did you see the hot topic of everybody saying that it wasn't basically they changed the story. That actually they were talking about the story, the thing that happened in South
Oh
London
yeah,
with the
I
young
saw
boy.
that. Yeah.
And they said, oh, he's black, but they changed him to be white for this. Why did they do that? You know, they changed the race, so that. Yeah, like stuff like that is really sad because I think it continues to create the divide between what's actually happening and then what's being fed online as truth. And yeah, I think, I guess growing up in a generation that, I mean, we had the internet, we had MSN.
We did, yeah.
But incel like culture didn't exist
No,
from what I know.
I don't remember it like that, no.
And even so, we were never gonna like big you up for being that kind of way, like, oh yeah, this is how you feel about women and blah blah blah. No one was ever gonna be like, oh, that's cool, dude. Like, it would have been odd to us, like, what? You know? So I really don't know how it's become such a thing. And it scares me, honestly, because, you know, we want young people to know truth, and we want them to know who they are and value themselves in a certain way. So yeah, it's a tough one, you know.
I was also glad that it was like based outside of London, because I feel like there's a lot of people that think knife crime especially is related to London. It is not related to London. It is a UK issue. And when you go up north, it's the same. When you go down south, it's the same thing. And I'm so happy that Adolescence chose not to base it in London, because like Top Boy, obviously there's a lot of people that have watched Top Boy, so they think that, oh, knife crime is just a London problem. It's not a London problem, it's a UK problem. And that's like going back to saying like things like collaboration is really important. Collaborating up north is really important too. Like everywhere in the UK is dealing with the same issue. So it's not just a London issue. And same with incel, I don't think those type of issues are just London based, you know. It's UK, everyone is dealing with that, unfortunately, obviously.
Yeah, and that's why we do the job we do.
Definitely.
So yeah, my last question then, because we've spoken about a lot, but this pod, I mean, why the pod, and kind of what should people expect from the pod?
Why the pod? Because there isn't a lot of people, first of all, that know Serenity Welfare.
Okay.
I'm having a lot of meetings like, we didn't know you existed. So that is why. Also, it's not about advertising Serenity Welfare. It's just about being able to share our own experiences, because we come with a lot of experience and our own trauma, but also to invite guests on so we can think about what are they dealing with, what are they advocating for. Can we collab? Let's make a change. Like, it's really important. Like, I keep banging on about it, but let's make a change. So I just think spreading awareness and opening up conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will be talking about young people, all related to young people.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do.
Glad. Okay.
We love young people, so that's what we do, and we want to help them. We want to support them in the best way possible, and we want to talk to other people that are also like-minded.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we will be having some guests on. We'll be talking about different themes, and
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully those listening and watching will look forward to it too.
Definitely. So hopefully people want to learn about what's going on in the UK and about the systems, and also very important to provide a space for young people to share their voice. That's very important.
True.
So we'll be having some young people on too as well to share their experience. I say young people, they're probably young adults now. But
that's true.
But they have been through a lot, and I had one the other day say, if you did have a podcast, I would definitely come on and tell them about my experience in therapy. And I was like, well,
nice.
Actually, I am going to have a podcast, and you can come on. And he's like, great, let me know when. So, we've got some young people lined up waiting to go.
Okay,
so,
cool. I'm looking forward to it.
That's Serene Pod.
Serene Pod?
Yeah.
Episode 1?
Yeah.
Cool.